Your day. If you knew that today was the last day of your life, would a lot of the things that are bothering you, would they bother you? Would all this stuff with Biden and Trump bother you? No, you wouldn't even think about it, right? Would the person that cut you off in traffic, would that bother you? No. You'd be thinking about your loved ones. You'd be thinking about maybe your favorite meal that you want to have. You want to be thinking about reaching out to people that you haven't reached out before that have made an impression on your lives. You'd be thinking about a lot of things, but not the things that we normally worry about. Well, hi, this is Mike Howard from the Ronin Leadership Podcast, and starting off a new week. It's hard to believe that this month is going by so fast. This year is going by so fast, but really excited for all the possibilities this next year of the different guests that we're going to have on the podcast, the different topics that we're going to address, and can't wait. We've just recently did an interview with a good friend of mine, former FBI agent and fellow chief security officer. That should be coming up very soon. Some really great insights and leadership and his career in the Bureau, and I think you'll get a lot out of it. And also, I want to thank all of you for subscribing to our channel. We're close to 1,500 subscribers, so we keep growing subscribers on a weekly basis. So thank you for spreading the word. Also, really grateful for those of you who are looking at my blog, Ronin Leadership Thoughts. Got a lot of really good comments about the lack of leadership we have today, especially in government, and the two major candidates that are going to be running for president, and their lack of leadership and things that we should not emulate. And not getting political, but it's the truth. So thank you for that. We're going to have links to the Ronin Leadership Thoughts on LinkedIn. Also, thank you for supporting the books. I got another one coming out on the Jack Trent series. It's called Omega Deception, about 7 chapters in. But thank you for supporting me in my writing and for continuing to talk about and buy copies of both my leadership books, The Art of Ronin Leadership and The Art of Executing Ronin Leadership Strategies, as well as my first two kind of ventures into fiction with Full Circle and Blood Promise. And so if you get a copy of those books, please, if you're so inclined, leave reviews on Amazon.com, and you can find the books on Amazon as well as on MikeHowardAuthor.com. And so thank you for the support. Obviously, continue to hit the subscribe button and the like button, and please share any videos that you like with other people. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, a lot of you know I've been on this Stoicism journey, if you want to call it that, for a while now. Started studying it earlier last year and have been really delving into a lot of aspects of it, because I find not only is it interesting to find out what philosophers thousands of years ago were writing about, and in order to cope with all the issues that they had to deal with in their lives. And obviously, I think life was a lot harder back then than it is here today. But how does that relate to what we're dealing with in today's world? You know, it's amazing that someone like a Marcus Aurelius, thousands of years ago, Roman emperor, writing his own thoughts, not for publication, but just for himself, so that he could make himself better, and he could learn to cope with all the things that he had to cope with as the emperor of Rome, would turn out to be one of the most widely read books in history, and it been read by many leaders throughout history. And in fact, I'm reading a book by Marine Corps General Mattis, who was Secretary of Defense under Trump for a while, but they call him Mad Dog. That was his nickname in the Marine Corps. But when he went in any deployment, he carried a copy of Meditations with him everywhere he deployed to. and refer to it. There was a gentleman, I passed away a few years ago, Admiral James Stockdale, who was a naval aviator who was shot down over Vietnam and spent years in captivity under torture. But he had been especially a student of Epictetus, another philosopher from back in the day, and he used that philosophy as well as his Christianity to help him get through those very harsh years. So it's always incredible to me how these writings from way back when, just like when you talk about the Bible, right? The writings from the Bible are able to really influence and help people in times of trouble, stress, adversity, just like with Stoicism. So I really started to delve into this and got into it. And one of the things I love doing is there are these Stoic challenges that I like to get involved in, and there are a lot of resources out there where you can do a challenge. I did a New Year's challenge. It lasted for 21 days, and it was really great. It went everything from physical to mental to spiritual challenges. And we did everything from cold plunges, which a lot of you know because I've talked about it. Do cold plunging on a regular basis. Start with cold showers, and then it went from that to, say, a mental exercise where you have to find a quiet place and count to 1,000 without being distracted, and it's really hard to do. To focus that much time. It took me 21 minutes, I think, to actually count to 1,000 and not lose focus. And so those kinds of things, or making amends with somebody that you have had a disconnect with, because life is short. And then the two basic Stoic philosophies of memento mori, which means, you're going to die. We're all going to die. So you should live each day with the philosophy of knowing that. How do you comport yourself during the day? Or what are the things that really matter? Is the driver that cut you off, does that really matter? Should that affect you and make you angry and upset and ruin your day? Because one of the Stoic principles is don't let someone else's anger or bad behavior ruin your day, make you angry, and just affect you. You have control over your mind and how you react. You don't have control over that stupid driver that cut you off, or you don't have control over a boss who's a jerk, or any other kinds of people that cause you consternation in your life. You don't have control over that, but you have control over how you as a person react to that, right? That's one of the ones, memento mori. And so if you kind of look at each day as if it's a gift that you woke up and you're breathing, that today you could die, then so how does that affect the rest of your day? If you knew that today was the last day of your life, would a lot of the things that are bothering you, would they bother you? Would all this stuff with Biden and Trump bother you? No, you wouldn't even think about it, right? Would the person that cut you off in traffic, would that bother you? No. You'd be thinking about your loved ones. You'd be thinking about maybe your favorite meal that you want to have. You want to be thinking about reaching out to people that you haven't reached out before that have made an impression on your lives. You'd be thinking about a lot of things, but not the things that we normally worry about. When we pick up the phone, and we're reading social media, we're seeing things in the news, and things that upset you, things going on in the world. Will we think about that? No, we wouldn't. So that's one aspect of Stoicism, is this memento mori. The other one is called amor fati, which means to love your fate. That whether something is good that's happening to you, or whether something is not so good that's happening to you, a negative, you accept all of it. It doesn't mean that you're an automaton, a robot. And if you get a bad news, a health scare, or the stock market drops and you've lost a lot of money, or a friend of yours does you wrong and you've been stabbed in the back, or you worked very hard on a project at work and you get no credit for it from a boss, again, who's a jerk. So in all those situations, and then conversely, that is, you get a promotion, or let's say something really good happens to you, right? So on the one hand, that's easy to be grateful, accept that fate. On the other hand, it's not so easy. But amor fati means accept all of it, because that's all part and parcel of your life. And in order to have a more calm and peaceful life and existence, is you have to accept everything. Doesn't mean you like it, but you try to find some good out of anything that's bad or negative. There's always some nugget, and that's what you're going for. You're going for the nugget of goodness within all the whatever darkness there is, because there's always that. There's always that looking for that piece of light in the darkness, and that's kind of what amor fati is all about. Does bad news affect you? Yes. Is it going to make you worry at times? Yes. You're human, right? And God knows someone like Marcus Aurelius, who dealt with running a vast Roman Empire, dealing with what they call the Antonine Plague, which is, we have our pandemic, right? The COVID. Well, this one killed thousands of his people, probably killed him at the end. He lost, I think he had 6 or 8 children. He lost all of them. He lost his wife. He was dealing with wars on several fronts. And yet he wrote his meditations, to steel him every day for the pressures of the day, and to try to get to the point where external influences would not adversely affect how he treats people, how he treated himself, and how he moved through life. He stumbled like everybody else. We all do. But these facts of these tenets of philosophy can really help you manage your day, manage your stress, dealing with difficult people, right? Because, for instance, at the end of the day, one of the things that Marcus Aurelius talked about is when he woke up, he knew he was going to be dealing with, I'm paraphrasing, bad people, terrible people, jerks, duplicitous people, lying people. He'd deal with some good people too, but he knew he was going to be dealing with this, just like we all do, right? It's no surprise. If you live in a world where you've got, a lot of people that are good, you're going to have a lot of people that are bad. And that's just the way it is. Shouldn't be a surprise. Knowing that, how does that affect you? Are you going to let them pull you down, make you depressed, make you think about them all the time? No. I mean, you may do it for a while, but I'm telling you, you don't have to let that happen. You can't you have to always keep thinking about, those are external things. You're not going to be able to change those people. You could pray for them. You could hope that they get better. Sometimes they will, but a lot of times they won't. But if you can't change them, then why are you obsessing about them? Just deal with them in a calm, peaceful, rational manner. And if they spit in your face, they spit in your face. If they don't buy what you're selling, that's fine. That's all part of it. But don't let it affect you, right? So that was all part of this 21-day challenge. So an aspect of Stoicism that you find in a lot of these challenges is the idea of voluntary discomfort. We all like to be comfortable. And, like I said, things were a lot harder in Marcus Aurelius's days than they are today. I mean, they didn't have electricity. They didn't have central heating or air conditioning. A lot of the creature comforts that we take for granted. So a big part of these challenges is practicing voluntary discomfort. What are the things that are you can do to make yourself more resilient, to make yourself, I guess, enjoying your life more, because you realize how comfortable you do have it, to be able to deal with adversity and negative situations in a better way than you would have had you not tested yourself. And so a lot of things that you do in order to make yourself more resilient has to do with being uncomfortable, right? When you go work out, if you're taking a hard class, we take F45, but if you do CrossFit, or if you're a runner, or if you're a weightlifter, or you're doing anything in which you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, that's voluntary discomfort. No one's making you do that. You're not in the military or the government. Nobody's making you do that. You're doing it because it's something you want to do to test yourself, to make yourself better physically and obviously mentally as well. So to extrapolate from that, when I started doing cold showers, it was a way to be, uncomfortable, but I did it to myself. I wanted the health benefits, which I've spoken about before, but I also wanted to test myself. And now with the cold plunges, and those of you who have followed me on Facebook know that it was recently in Park City, Utah. We were visiting some friends, and it had been snowing. Obviously it's winter, and I was able to get out there for at least 2-3 days in the snow, with just my swim trunks, and got in there and experienced actual real cold. It was like 20-something degrees in the snow. But again, I did it. It was voluntary. It was something I wanted to do. So that's all part of it. What's interesting is that I was reading an article. It's called "What I Learned from 3 Days of Voluntary Discomfort" by someone named Jeff Chen. It's on the stoicsage.com website. We're going to have a link to this article. I don't know who this Jeff Chen is, but reading the article was fascinating. He decided to do a 3-day voluntary discomfort challenge, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But one of the things I did recently was I had read about how both like Marcus Aurelius and people like Seneca, who was another Stoic philosopher back in the day, they would do things like, with Seneca, for instance, he was a rich man, but he'd go out in rags, and he would experience times where he would voluntarily, not eat, not for a diet, but just to experience being without food, because there were people, in his community, just like we have today, that are hungry, they don't have enough food. So he wanted to experience that, put himself in that position to make him understand more the situation, but also to understand that what's the worst thing that can happen to you. If I could still survive, even if I wasn't rich like Seneca, or didn't have access to a lot of food, you could still survive. And one of the things Marcus Aurelius did was, at times he would sleep on the floor. He was emperor of Rome. I'm sure he had a great bed. I don't know if it was a Tempur-Pedic or, whatever kind of bed he had. He obviously had a probably really good warm bed to sleep in, but he would sleep on the floor, a cold floor, to experience voluntary discomfort, to understand that, and it may be a little thing, but those little things have big impact, because it reinforced to him that while I have this bed right here and I could sleep in it, and I'm going to appreciate it more when I eventually, get back into it on the next night, I understand that I can endure this, and I understand that more than just the physical enduring of it, the mental and spiritual aspect of putting yourself in a position where you're uncomfortable, so that you appreciate what you have and you build resilience to adverse circumstances, which are going to come your way. If you live on this earth long enough, you're going to be dealing with adversity. And so I tried that a few weeks ago. I tried it. I slept on the foot of the bed, and it was very uncomfortable. I used At first I tried it without any kind of thing to support my head. I'd have my head up in different positions like this or like this, and like twisting myself into a pretzel, right? Finally, I took a bathrobe, and I kind of made that into a makeshift pillow. But it was uncomfortable. It was cold on the ground, and I did it for a night. But the next night when I got into bed, I certainly appreciated it, and I also felt like I'd accomplished something just by that little act of sleeping on the floor. And then of course, as I do just about every day, I either do a cold shower or a cold plunge. So that was another thing. But again, it just helps me feel like I've accomplished something, and it made me more resilient. Well, this gentleman, Jeff Chen, he did 3 days of voluntary discomfort on his own. He came up with his own protocol. The first one was going to sleep on the floor for 3 nights. And then he was going to not eat any solid meals, so basically meal replacement shakes. And then he was going to do a digital detox, and which means, like, no internet, no cell phone, no looking at the news, all this other kind of stuff. So he put that together, and I'm paraphrasing, but he thought that, because I think he'd been, I haven't read his background. I assume that if he's here in this website, he's been practicing Stoicism, like a lot of us. And he said he felt that he would be able to, it'd be easy. He could do it. It'd be a challenge, but it'd be easy. He found it harder than he thought. The first night he found, like I did, it was incredibly difficult to try to get a good night's sleep. At some point, your body gets so exhausted that you do fall asleep. But just the discomfort of being on even if you got a thin carpet, it's still hard, right? There's no mattress underneath you, and it's hard. And especially if it's cold, it's harder. So he found that extremely hard. He found the first night, and also the meal replacement shakes. The first day, fine. Digital detox, which I actually have done as part of a challenge. I went 24 hours, and I've done that twice actually, where you put the phone away, you don't, you just don't answer email, and obviously you're not looking at Facebook, YouTube, you're not getting feeds from the news media, Instagram, and it was pretty good. Had more time to read, had more time to reflect and meditate and pray and spend time with my wife and my dog. And it's just, all the time is of the essence, especially the older you get. And so this was really good. Now, as this Mr. Chen, Jeff Chen, talked about, the second day got a little bit easier, only because the unknown factor was out of there, right? He knew what to expect when he went to go sleep on the floor. He knew what to expect when he was going to get hunger pains because you're drinking meal replacement shakes. And he knew what to expect when, he knew he was not going to be able to look at the phone and not be able to, look at news or whatever else, you do. And so then the third day you acclimate more, but he had great lessons learned about what you thought was going to happen and how easy you thought it might have been, but it wasn't. And individually, these may be 3, quote, minor things. And most people say, I could do all that kind of stuff. Well, I would challenge you to try it. Try sleeping on the floor and see how easy it is. Try going a day without looking at this, without answering and responding to emails, without checking out what's going on in the world with the news and what's happening, or entertainment-wise. Try doing that. And then, I've done intermittent fasting before in the past, so I know what it's like to go, 16 hours without eating. But eventually you're going to eat, right, within that 8-hour window. But try just doing meal replacement shakes for 3 days, and I suspect it's more challenging than you think. But the idea that we're trying to get across here in this video is that there are benefits to practicing voluntary discomfort. It doesn't have to be all the time, but on occasion. And for those of you who work out, you're already doing it in a different way to a certain extent by putting yourself in positions where it sucks. To do that another rep where it sucks because you're doing this cardio exercise and you're gasping for air, and you wish you could be anywhere but there. But then afterwards, what's the feeling like? You've accomplished something. You've done something that a vast majority of Americans, for instance, don't do, because we all know that most Americans don't work out on a regular basis. If they do it sporadically. Most Americans don't have any exercise routine. So you're doing something, right? And so again, a lot of these other things that I talked about, when you practice voluntary discomfort, you're testing yourself, you're testing your own mettle, but you're also readying yourself, steeling yourself for when adversity does happen, right? You're better able to deal with it because you know that you can handle tough things. You know you can handle discomfort. You know you can handle things. The idea of plunging in cold water, besides the physical benefits, obviously, so it's like, so what does that mean when you're dealing with a difficult individual, a difficult boss, a health scare situation, a relationship situation that's not going well, either with a family member or a friend, or you're dealing with a pandemic, or you're dealing with divisions in the country, and you're afraid for your bank account. All these things that could and may well happen to you. What is a cold plunge? What is sleeping on the floor? What is a digital detox? What does that have to do with any of that? All of those things put you in positions when you're uncomfortable and you overcome. It just continues, like when you lift a weight over a period of time to strengthen parts of your body, they get stronger. Same thing. When you put yourself in positions where you're uncomfortable and you're taking on an adverse situation and you're defeating it at the micro level, right? And I call that like the micro level, like a cold plunge. Those things add up, and over a period of time, it helps you deal with the really big things in life, the really big adverse situations, in a way that you probably wouldn't have been able to handle before, because mentally, you know, this is scary. I don't want this to happen. I'm afraid. But you can look at all that, and number one, you acknowledge it, right? And number two, you realize that you have done things to help you prepare for this, to help you think more clearly, to keep you calm. When other people are freaking out, you can stay calm and can know that just like a cold plunge will end in 5 minutes or 3 minutes, or how much you do it, or that sleeping on the floor will be done in 6 to 8 hours, right? That this, whatever issues are facing you, will be over at some point. It'll be done with. And it'll be another situation where, because you've gone through it and succeeded, that made you just that much more stronger. And the time you're going through this adversity, you may not be thinking that, like, why me? Or woe is me. I've been there. We've all been there. We'll probably be there again. But each time you go through adversity and overcome just makes you stronger. You don't know it at the time that you're in it, but afterwards you are stronger. And the other part of this is that it forces you to understand this adage, right? That the rain falls on the just and the unjust, right? Bad things are going to happen to good people. It's happened since the beginning of time. It'll happen until time ends. So knowing that that's a fact of life, then what are you going to do to prepare for that, right? When the inevitable bad times come, what are you gonna do to prepare yourself for that? Obviously, if you're a person of faith, you're going to lean on your faith, which I think is most important, more important than Stoicism and all this other stuff. Your faith is really more important. Belief in God and what God can do for you during these times. But having something like Stoicism as well to help reinforce your faith, I think it's really important. So, and also the other aspect of all of this is this idea of time, right? We go through life so fast. Like, I'm gonna be 68 years old this year. When I was in my 20s, like 60 something, heck, 50 something is old, right? To us, when you're in your 20s. I'll be 68, right? So, as someone pointed out the other day, we were having a conversation about time, right? And when you're in your 20s, it seems like the timeline is this big. And when you get to, senior citizen age, the timeline is this, because you have less time on this earth than you did when you were in your 20s. That's just a given. But whether you're 20 or whether you're 68, you still have 24 hours in a day. And because we're all busy and we're doing a lot of different things, we kind of take time for granted. And one of the things that these types of exercises do is they teach you the value of time, right? This gentleman, Mr. Chen, when he wrote this article, one of the things, and I found that the same thing, when you do a digital detox, all the stuff that I'd been doing, like whether I was looking at social media, responding to Facebook, checking out the news, finding an article, I said, oh, that looks interesting. If you look at that over a period of a week, you can figure out how much time that takes, and how during the time that I was doing the digital detox, I was able to read more chapters in a book. I was able to spend more time with my wife and my dog. I was able to meditate, pray a little bit more. I was able to enjoy things more, right? And enjoy just a bird chirping or the breezes on the leaves, those little things that you kind of take for granted. So you need to maximize your time. Obviously, a big part of your day, if you're working, you got to concentrate on work, right? And there are a lot of things pulling at you. But whenever you can, be present and appreciate where you are right now, appreciate the now, is very important. And when you do these things, like when I'm laying on the floor and it's cold and it's hard and everything, I'm present. I'm not thinking about tomorrow's headache with somebody that I got to deal with, a difficult person. I'm not thinking about Biden or Trump. I'm not thinking about what the stock market is doing. I'm thinking about the fact that my butt is on the ground and it's cold and it's hard, and I'm trying to get in a good, comfortable position, but I'm focused on the moment. When you're cold plunging, I'm not thinking about those things either. I'm thinking about how cold it is, but I'm also focused on me and my breathing, and eventually I get to look around. I do notice the bird chirping, and I do notice the blue skies, and I do notice the entrails of the planes that have passed by, and you're in the moment. And that's important in this crazy busy world, to have times when you are in the moment and present and appreciating just being, right? Being alive. So there's a whole lot to this voluntary discomfort. I'm gonna put a link in the article on this particular podcast, but I would highly recommend that number one, you go to. In fact, I'll put the link on there too. Ryan Holiday, who is this probably the main, I don't want to call him guru, but he's certainly the number one proponent of Stoicism in the world, and he's written a lot of books on it. But his website, thedailystoic.com, has links to different challenges that you can take. I'm getting ready to do another one. A friend of mine, he and I are actually going to do this together. I think it starts March 19th. It's called the Spring Forward Challenge. I don't really know. We don't know. You don't know when you take these challenges like this what each day's exercise is going to be, but it's going to be a lot of fun. But I'm going to put a link to there so you can maybe, if you're interested in delving more into Stoicism and also maybe taking one of these challenges, you should look into it. I also bought, I think from the same dailystoic.com, a deck of cards. And what it is the cards are color-coded based on different aspects of your life, whether it's physical or spiritual, mental, what have you. And you pick one of those cards randomly every day, and there's a challenge of sort. And like today's challenge was take a look at 5, 6, 7 people that that you look up to, that you respect, and what are the aspects of them that you respect, and you write it down. Kind of gives you time to focus on, okay, what is it about a Colin Powell, for instance, that I really admired? His leadership, obviously, but maybe it was his selflessness. So gives you an idea of the things that you value and why the people you look up to, why do you look up to them, right? So we'll have a link to that as well. But anyway, I hope you got something out of this podcast. The idea is you don't have to go whole hog into Stoic philosophy or voluntary discomfort, but I would challenge you to take a look at it. And if you aren't doing anything on a regular basis to put yourself in an uncomfortable position, voluntary discomfort, I would say try it. Because I think over a period of time, you're going to then appreciate the times when you're comfortable more. You're going to know that you have overcome a challenge. And you're going to, over a period of time, build up your resilience, whether it's physical and or mental, and probably both, so that when adversity does strike, which it will, you'll be better prepared to deal with it. And you won't let external influences dictate how you react. You won't allow whatever's happening in the world or that bad person or that bad situation, you're not going to allow it to bring you down, to make you depressed, to make you angry, to make you want to lash out. Because why would you allow that to happen, right? You cannot allow an angry person or an angry situation or a bad situation to make you less of a person and to drag you down. Because if you can't do anything about a situation, if you have literally no control over a situation, why would you then sit around obsessing about it? Why would you let it get to the point where I don't feel like eating, or I don't want to talk to anybody, or I'm going to get depressed, or whatever? Why are you doing that? Because you can't do anything about it. You can control your emotions. You can control the actions that you're going to take to hopefully mitigate whatever the situations are, right? If it's a difficult person, trying to reason with them in a calm manner, trying to deal with them with facts. And if they don't want to listen to it, fine. They don't listen to it, get out of your control. You've done what you can do. If it's a health scare, then you're going to take steps to overcome that health scare and then move on, right? If it's a world situation, if it's like your 401k and the market's tanking or whatever, there's nothing you can do about it. But maybe you can take a look at your portfolio and take a look at, maybe I switch it around so there's risk or something. There's always something you can do. And in the midst of what you can do, you're doing it with an attitude of gratefulness. Remember, and knowing that you're on this earth for a finite period of time. Do you want to spend it always being anxious, angry, sad, depressed, worried? Or do you want to spend whatever time you have left on this earth? And we don't know. None of us know how much time we have, right? Would you rather spend it being, for the most part, calm and present and in control and appreciative of not just the big things, but the little things, and valuing every day and trying to make the most out of every day for yourself, for your loved ones, for your friends, your family, the community? Would you rather spend it that way? Of course you would, right? And that's why these things are so important. The voluntary discomfort and practicing them on a regular basis. Trust me, I get angry, I get anxious. There are times I want to lash out. There are times I want to say why, and I do, and just like I'm sure Marcus Aurelius did, or General Mattis, or Stockdale when he was in the North Vietnamese prison. I'm sure there were times that he said why, but then you pull it back and say, okay, there is no why. I was a naval flyer, pilot, aviator. There was always a chance I could get shot down. I was one of the ones that got shot down. Now I'm stuck here in the Hanoi Hilton for God knows how long, because he didn't know when he was going to get out. See, this is a person that didn't know when the end was going to be, right? But he realized that I got to make the best of it when I can. I'm leaning on my faith. I'm leaning on Stoicism. I'm leaning on the fact that it is what it is. So I'm going to accept it. I'm going to love my fate. Not love getting tortured, obviously, all this stuff, but I'm going to accept it and love it and find some goodness out of it, whether it's figuring out a communications code with their fellow prisoners so that they can at least talk and have some semblance of humanity. Whether it was a prison guard that once in a while treated him like a human being, you find something, right? And you learn. Otherwise, you're going to get depressed and you die. And I'm sure there were a lot of unfortunate POWs that just gave up because they couldn't endure, because they didn't see any hope, right? So remember these things. I could talk on this forever, but remember these things. Please send me your comments and any feedback that you have. Again, I challenge you to check these things out for yourself. We've got the links there for the dailystoic.com and the stoicsage.com, which literally before the podcast, this is the first time I went on this, and I'm loving the content, but we'll have those links. Also, MikeHowardAuthor.com to check out my books, and hopefully if you haven't already, pick up a copy of all of them. And like I said, got another one coming. Continue to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this with your friends, spread the word, and we've got some other guests coming this year that I think you'll find very interesting. Thank you for all your support as our subscribership continues to grow, and that's all because of you. So until the next time, we'll be back at you soon with another edition of the Ronin Leadership Podcast.